Welcome back to my channel, scribes. I'm Pika Lee, and welcome to Writemas. Now today I'm going to go through my story outline with you. I'm really excited. I'm working on a new project and I thought it would be really fun to fill this in together. Take a peek down below, grab that worksheet that's free, might I add, and let's get started. Welcome back to my channel, scribes, and if you're new here, thank you for joining us today. Take a look around, stay a while. I have some really great videos that aim to teach you how to build the perfect writing foundation out of hard work, mentality, and of course the knowledge that I give you to do what you do best. Right. So I know in the past I have given you a video about my story outline process, but I definitely want to talk about my story outline worksheet. Course, affectionately called the onion outline, which I now see as a bad idea, and I'm just keeping it to the story outline worksheet. This is sort of a layered approach to outlining your story. Now, if you're not quite a plotter, don't worry, you can still use this worksheet to just briefly outline a little bit more about what you want your story to be like, or where you want it to go, in what direction it should be heading, so that you can actually have somewhat of an idea of what you're going to craft all the beautiful dialogue and scenery and all this other stuff around for everyone's enjoyment. Are you ready, scribes? So the first part we're going to start with is working title. Now you can title this anything that you want. I mean, you can even title it Untitled if you want. But of course I like to come up with a fun creative thing that sort of inspires some sort of motivation in me. So for this one, I'm going to be plotting my short film and it's going to be called Frequency. Now I know that there's already a movie called Frequency, and I know because I grew up watching it. Dennis Quaid? Gold. But I'm going to name mine Frequency anyway because it's a working title and I could change it at really any point. But it actually suits what I want it to be for, so I'm kind of going to keep it for now. Now also, side note, I got to go to the People's Choice Awards for 2021 and I was like, you know, the side audience. Can I tell you how nice in person little Huey from The Boys is? Randy Quaid, Dennis Quaid's son. So nice, so humble. Also, I saw Blake Shelton, so humble also. He actually talked to like people around me because, you know, I was too afraid to talk to him. Just so humble. Anyways, so let's move on to genre, target word count, or page count. So this is pretty important to me. I know it seems like really simple stuff, but I promise you it does help quite a lot. So I narrowed down my genre for my short film that I'm going to develop with you today. I'm going to go with supernatural horror. I've already sort of thought about what my story is going to sort of encompass and be like. So in my mind, haven't written it, but I've sort of in my mind written down like no longer than 5 pages. It's a 1 location shoot, probably just in here. So 5 pages it is, and that's what I'm settling with. Now word count is really for someone who's writing a novel or a short story. So obviously not going to be used for screenwriting because page count is what we go off for screenwriting because, you know, of course the 1 page to 1 minute screen time. And so we're working with a different format, which is why my next portion at the top is actually what writing type. This is because the writing format is going to make a big deal with how many pages or how long you're going to write your actual writing project. So for me, for a short film, you're gonna wanna stay within sort of that 1 minute to less than 30 minutes really of actual pages. I'm not planning on writing a very large short film, so this should be a little bit easier for me to stay at 5 minutes. But do understand how genre will impact your actual word count or page count, because if you're writing a drama, you're probably going to write a lot longer of a scene and it's going to be more dialogue heavy if that's your thing. Depends on the genre, of course, depends on the subgenre. But for me, of course, since I'm doing a horror, it should be pretty swift in where I get to the point with my stories. So that's why I'm sticking with my specific page count. So the next part is going to be story. Story is very important. We're getting to the meat here now. Story is your internal conflict. So for story, I do have a little summary here, and that is your internal struggle and basically the scenes that happen because of it. So because your character is making a choice internally and that's reflected externally, you're led into another scene in which they have to react. And so that's part of the story. The story is that internal conflict. And the internal conflict and internal struggle are what your character needs to overcome and to accept. So you want to make sure you really focus on this section. It really does help with plot, and it does help with, of course, the rest of your whole story. So really focus on that, pay attention to it, and dig deep into your character's soul. They're gonna need it. Just pretend you're your character's therapist and kind of, figure out what's wrong with them. Works every time. So for my story, I already know that I kind of have some things to work with. I've written down a few words that kind of come to mind. I've got to do some more research and looking into what my character would really want to internally struggle with. So that's something that I myself have to continue researching, and that's why this is a big part. But since we are going ahead and doing this together, I've written down something along the lines of time and balance. So basically work and social life balance are going to be a crutch for my character internally. I'm going to have them sort of struggle with making time for family because of how hyper-focused they are on achieving status in life. Now, because of story, I'm going to go over to character arc. Character arc is what the change from the beginning of the film or the writing piece to the end of it is, and how that change occurs and what the change actually is. Now, again, internal struggle is going to be different for every character, so take your time with this. A lot of times, honestly, I revise this over and over and over again because I am still, of course, a student of the art, so I am still always learning how to better my character's development, and development is something I'm not very strong with, which is why I don't teach you how to develop your characters. I teach you how to develop basically your own skill set so that you can do the developing in a proper way by actually taking the time to research and getting a better experience out of your education and your knowledge to make sure you are doing the right things to get the best story from yourself. So everything I recommend to you is really to get yourself to buckle down and focus so that you can learn story effectively. And that's my hope for everybody. So I hope this is helping. But for now, let's move on from story, because now that we've kind of got an idea of what their internal struggle is going to be, I know that she's going to struggle, of course, with her family and her job. So I know that those two things are going to clash to give her an internal struggle that she's going to have to deal with. What does this have to do supernaturally? That's where we're going to get to. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is theme. So theme is going to be that sort of overall thematic question, or that thing that is surrounding what the story is going to be about. So it's going to be what the character is learning at the end. And that's why you can tell that story, theme, and character arc sort of meld together in some way. Once you figure out one part of it, you've got potential answers to the next two parts. So of course for my theme, I haven't quite figured that out yet. I know for sure it's going to involve family. I don't quite like to just put, like family and like love and relationships. And work and time. I don't like to just put one-word answers. I like to actually fill this out with a full sort of sentence that's describing the sort of thing that my character is either going to ask themselves or what they are going to actually experience. And so that's why I like to think this one out a little bit more. I'm probably not going to answer this one right now because, of course, I'm still fleshing out quite a lot of my story. And it's okay if you don't have the answers. It's just good to think about it. And that's where the research comes in handy. Outlining and getting that research done so that you can figure out, okay, well, what is my story going to portray and how can I portray it the best way? That's what the story outline is for. Now, the last part is plot. So we already know that the plot is directly involving the antagonist. Your antagonist is going to mess stuff up. especially for your protagonist. So your plot is going to be what is involving that antagonist. This part is where I pay special attention to, because at this point, when I actually begin to plot, I go into my larger plotting worksheet, and that's where I typically like to jot down every single thing that's major to my plot that's going to happen. So that's all I've got for you today, scribes. I hope you enjoyed this Writemas video, and I hope that you have a great time outlining your next project. I'll see you in the next one, scribes. Let's do this.